Come on.
They're right there!
Let's go. Move, 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 move.
This episode of Choices Not Chances podcast is sponsored by Louisiana Gun Shop, located on Highway 90 West in Broussard, Louisiana, just south of Lafayette. For more information, stay tuned at the end of this episode.
This is Choices Not Chances podcast with Ryan and Matt. I'm your co-host, Matthew Charette. Sitting next to me is Ryan Rogers. Ryan.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, and I appreciate you being here. Just like always, smash the like button, subscribe to the channels, let people know what's going on, and share this information out. This week's episode features Robert Kerman, Master Sergeant, USMC, retired. I was super excited to share this episode with you due to the impact that young Lance Corporal Kerman had on me and then subsequently my squad and 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines. We were in our final exercise prior to pushing out on deployment out at 29 Palms. And I pulled one of the most recent Silver Star citations that I could find. I wanted to inspire my younger Marines and make them realize that it was the junior enlisted Marines and NCOs that were taking the fight to the enemy. The citation reads as follows. Robert Kerman, citation. The President of the United States takes great pleasure in presenting the Silver Star Medal to Robert P. Kerman, Lance Corporal, United States Marine Corps, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in actions against the enemy while serving as Rifleman, Combined Anti-Armor Platoon, Weapons Company, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, 1st Marine Division, 1st Marine Expeditionary Force on March 25, 2003, in support of Operation IRAQI FREEDOM. Lance Corporal Kerman exhibited exceptional bravery when lead elements of the battalion were ambushed with mortars and rocket-propelled grenades and automatic weapons fire. As the vehicle he was traveling in moved directly into the machine gun fire and into a trench line, Lance Corporal Kerman sprang from the vehicle and began assaulting down an enemy-occupied trench with 2 other Marines. As enemy soldiers fired at him, he fearlessly plunged forward towards them, firing his M16 with lethal accuracy. Continuing to move through the trench, he repeatedly came under enemy fire. Each time, he would calmly occupy a steady firing position and take well-aimed shots that had devastating effects on the enemy. As the group ran out of ammunition, they pressed forward 200 to 300 meters, utilizing captured enemy AK-47s. Lance Corporal Kerman showed no regard for his own personal safety, and his actions directly contributed to the successful outcome of the engagement. By his bold leadership, wise judgment, and complete dedication to duty, Lance Corporal Kerman reflected great credit upon himself and upheld the highest traditions of the Marine Corps and the United States Naval Service. 18 years later, I met Robert Kerman at Post 9983 VFW in Holly Ridge while shooting with some buddies of mine. The introduction was anticlimactic for everybody but me. We all shot, we had a great time, and I was honored to have shot with him. Later on, we talked more, and I was honored again to attend his retirement just a month or so ago over on Camp Lejeune, and I've been looking forward to bringing you guys this story. There is much to take away from this story, both goods and bads, and junior leaders, if you're watching, you need to pay close attention. It will be obvious the things that I'm talking about. So without further ado, Robert Kerman, thanks for coming to the show, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. So we're going to get into conversation real quick, but I have pointed questions that I ask everybody. So if we'll start there, if you could humor me there. Can you take me back to like family dynamics, where you grew up, what the family dynamic was, and siblings, things of that nature?
Yeah. So I grew up in Southern California. I got 3 sisters, mom and dad. They've been married for like 49 years, still going at it. So good family, good upbringing, like, basic suburbia, not rich, not poor, middle class for the most part. Just growing up there was a little bit awkward at times, like Southern California being like during that time, Rodney King, and everything like that. It was really odd. So I had a good childhood, don't get me wrong. played sports, Boy Scouts, and everything like that. But we moved when I was like 13, and at that point, it started to get kind of weird, in that area. So we moved to Oregon after that, and that was a culture shock. No more city. We're in the country, and
like the antithesis of the city.
Yeah, completely different. So it was kind of cool, getting that childhood in one place, and then another.
Yeah.
Different perspective, different kinds of people, and everything like that. Southern California was great. Don't get me wrong. Lots of things to do and activities, stuff like that. But when I moved to Oregon, life got better. Quality of life definitely got better. It was baseball, hunting, fishing, and that's really all I cared about.
Fuck yeah. Time, well, that's a good time right there.
Yeah. I think, I have 3 sisters, 2 older, 1 younger. We always make the joke, like my two older sisters are like college degrees, never did anything wrong, and then you got like me and my little sister. So like we joined the Marine Corps, we're tatted up, and
your little
we
sisters
went the
too?
other way. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Funny story. I actually recruited her. So,
oh nice.
Yeah,
she counted for your numbers.
Yeah,
you're sick.
I know. Retire next month, and I'm like gonna try to like formulate an apology at my ceremony to her.
Is she still in?
No, she got out after 4 years. She's a nurse now, like an ER, and kicking butt. So
hell yeah, dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
So 2 older, 1 younger. You and the younger are the rebels, and then the 2 older kind of took the high route.
Right, and then a little bit on my mom and dad. Like my mom, homemaker, great woman, just awesome, Christian, like raised me right, in some
that's
ways.
another question I was going to have was religion ingrained in you guys at a young age in the household?
Yeah, it was, and there were times we didn't go to church, times we did, but God was always, at the forefront of right and wrong, why we do things a certain way and everything like that. And it wasn't my faith as a child. I went to church because my parents. It was only until like maybe about 5 or 6 years ago that it became my faith. Based upon my experiences. And yeah, I'm definitely a practicing Christian now. But yeah, back then, I'm so glad my mom had loved me so much, prayed for me, and just had that unconditional love that no matter what you do, they're always there for you. So that was my mom. My dad, same thing, but he was just a little bit more reserved. He was in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
67, 68, with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines in Vietnam. And so I think maybe he was a little bit more withdrawn, a little bit more serious, and businesslike, probably more than my mom, if that makes any sense. She was very warm on one side. My dad, he's always there for me. Baseball coach, scoutmaster and everything like that. And, a best friend, but he was just, very focused on our proficiency as people growing up, which it worked out well, I think, for me.
It's just huge.
Yeah, they've been great.
One of the big reasons that I ask about the religion, and everybody's like, oh, why you go there? It's like, well, when you go to the other side of the world and you do and see things that run converse to your ethical and moral foundation as a human being, I think it causes problems. At least it did for me. Not like religion's the problem, but like we have a culture and we put a high price on human life and things of that nature. You go to the Middle East, it's not the same as that. No, and when you're confronted at a young age with that, what seems like immorality to you from their own parents sometimes, it can be devastating to people. So I also had been ingrained, when I was younger with the church and Protestant religion, Nazarene mainly. And then when I got over there, it just rocked me that my foundational beliefs of things that I thought made up, life were completely not observed over there, so. Yeah,
that started for me, I think, at about 17, 18 years old. And I loved my childhood, don't get me wrong, and I loved my family, but I knew that I felt like I was missing something. I felt like I was kind of sheltered. I joined the Marine Corps, not only because of 9/11, got out of college, right when that happened and joined up, but I also knew there was I was soft, I was uncultured, And there was so much that I probably had to go experience that I felt like a need to go experience. So I did that, and I was conflicted. You join the Marine Corps, it's culture shock.
Yeah.
It's so different from anything you've ever experienced in your life. From the time you get to boot camp, then you go to combat. And like you said, you see how people live over there. You kill people, and you see other people killed. And it changes you 100%. And so I like the fact that I was based in religion, and I knew that as the truth, God's truth. And I came back to that. But for many years after experiencing a shock like that, when you're 19 years old, you don't have a lot to base it on. So you see how the other world lives, you see the other side, and you wonder, well, is that the way to go? Is that the right thing?
Yeah, they believe in that just as much as I believe in mine, right?
And I don't mean necessarily their culture necessarily, but anything different, you have to test the waters, and if you're being smart about it, in my opinion. And I did that, and I came back to what I knew was right, how I was raised. That's what made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk about, so after high school, you don't go straight in, you go into college for a bit, right? So can you talk about that a little bit?
There's not much to talk about on that, I'll tell you. So, I grew up and everybody was like, well, you got to go to college. From a very young age, I remember my grandfather talking about, go get the piece of paper, get your diploma, There never really was like a why, except for, well, everybody has it. You got to go get it. So
it's a thing.
Yeah. And now it's like changing, the dynamics change. Everybody's like, well, you need to go get a trade because everybody has the piece of paper now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but back then, I went to the University of Nevada at Reno, not Vegas. And
perfect place to go to college when you're young, eh?
It was, yeah. I lasted 2 weeks in my classes, and 9/11 happened, and it was just like, I was stunned. I was shocked. I grew up. My household, the Marine Corps was there because my dad's service, but it wasn't the forefront. We were not a military family. He didn't go to reunions at that time, and I don't think he talked about his service a lot because of some of his experiences and how the reception for him, coming back home.
Yeah.
But something happened when 9/11. Like everybody
in
else,
you,
in me,
yeah,
in me. I couldn't even go back to class. It rocked me.
That's what it was.
I was so pissed off. I really was. And I didn't know what the answer was at the time. So like a whole week goes by. Everybody's going back to class. The kids stopped talking about it. I'm like walking around the campus. I'm not going to class anymore. And I'm just like, what am I going to do? I got to do something. So there's we bought like a meal plan, So like I'm going to what was it called, the chow hall, like cafeteria,
mm-hmm.
And there's like these 2 Marine Corps recruiters with their little table set up, and like I saw them and something clicked. I'm like,
boom,
that's it. And all the years of hearing about my dad and his exploits and whatever, but I hated it. Don't get me wrong, like it was my dad, not me. Mm-hmm. I didn't respect the Marine Corps, and how it is growing up with a dad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you want to go your other way sometimes. You love them, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not following in your footsteps.
Not going to be in your shadow, yeah.
Well, I ended up following his footsteps,
yeah.
So, I mean, which is great. He's an awesome dude. But, yeah, saw those guys. They were recruiting officers. So I told them, like, hey, I want to join up. They're, like, talking about, like, PLC or something like that. I'm like, no, I want to go now. And then they're just like, well, you got to go talk to your recruiter at your hometown, So, I found a way to conveniently tell my parents, that I was still going to college for that semester. I wasn't, We had a good time in Reno, I'll say that. But I knew it was getting down.
A little party semester?
Yeah. I had to wait like a couple months to join up and go to MEPS.
We got to get on all the things.
Right. We had to be pure going up there.
Yeah.
So I joined up February 11th, went to MEPS and processed, and then April 15th.
Of 01? Or 02?
I'm sorry, yeah, 02.
02, okay.
Yeah, I waited a little bit. My parents didn't take it well.
Oh, I'm sure.
I went back in like late November. It was Thanksgiving. I told them like, I want to join the Marine Corps, And my dad, who was like a rifleman, in Vietnam, he's like, if you're gonna go, you got to be an officer. That's the way to go. Don't do it. And my mom's like crying.
Yeah.
Like literally crying in the kitchen. And they talked me out of going infantry. So I signed on I went to the recruiter, told him I want to join, but then like I didn't have the guts to like sign up or something like that. I don't know. So it's like Saturday, and he shows up in his dress blues. He's like, "You ready to go?" I'm like, yeah, I'm in my boxers, waking up at like 11 o'clock in the morning. And, yeah, I went there like that day and signed the paperwork. And
What'd you come in as, job-wise?
Funny story. So my sister, Lindsay, she's a bulldog for the family. Like, you're either going to get into a horrible fight with her,
This is the younger?
because of the passion. Like, she's a year older than me.
Oh, this is the older one. Okay.
Or she's going to hook you up and take care of you and love you like none other. You know what I mean? And most of the time it is that. But we had like a falling out like a year before, and like we didn't talk a lot,
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Get in the car, we need to talk." I'm like, "What?" So we go for a drive, and she's like, "You need to follow your dream." I think I signed on for motor T.
Okay.
Because it made my parents happier that I wasn't gonna be in the
Yeah,
infantry.
yeah.
She's like, "You need to follow your dream. You need to do what you want to do." And it kind of gave me the courage to be like, "Yeah, you're right. Like, I'm going to do that." So I went in, lat moved. The recruiter was like, "Are you crazy?" He's like,
In the beginning?
"Yeah."
Okay.
Yeah, so I wasn't at boot camp yet. And, I changed it like a few weeks before I ended up leaving.
To be a rifleman?
To be was it
03.
03XX. Yeah.
Choo choo.
Which, it was just infantry to me. I didn't even specify the different,
I didn't know
MOSs.
there was differences, so.
There's so much they don't tell you, Like
I thought we were all infantry.
I went to like one pool function, and so like I got to boot camp, and these guys are getting screamed at on the quarterdeck. It's night. We're all in our racks, like scared, and I'm like, "Why are they yelling at him?" He's like, "He doesn't know his general orders." I'm like, "What's a general order?"
This is bad.
It was horrible, but I'm a quick learner. I found a way to kind of blend in, and all things were quiet at boot camp for quite some time. Just I got injured. I think I hurt my knee for like 3 weeks. Went to
Rolled?
Yeah. So lost 3 weeks of training. Went to MRP, but like I used it to build. Like the drill instructors were kind of cool. They're like, "Hey, you're a good recruit, so when you go there, don't lose focus.
Yeah.
Go do push-ups, crunches, everything like that." And I remember my dad telling me when he was at boot camp, like they ended up being like honor platoon because their drill instructor had them doing like PT at night, like extra PT, and they just killed the competition. Yeah. So I did that. I went to MRP, and like everybody else is kind of like losing focus and everything like that. And I came out doing like 19 pull-ups.
It's just laid. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was kind of cool. Went back to a training platoon, and then again, all things kind of quiet, blending in, and then went to the range, and I shot company high.
Oh yeah.
And so
Skyline.
Now, dude,
I know your name.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the what is it? The PMI. Yeah, the PMI. Our coach is like told me if you get range high or company high, I forget what he said. Now it's like I'll bring you like a value meal from McDonald's. So like no kidding, we're at what was it called? We're at Pendleton. Yeah, it's like we're ready to go back to San Diego, and this dude comes in with a 20-piece value meal.
Oh boy.
It's like, "Where's Kerman at?" Like, okay.
Don't do that to me.
My life was over at that point, like, yeah. So yeah, skylined heavily, good away at first, and then things turned ugly real quick.
Turned for the worse.
But I mean, how many recruits you find out getting a 20-piece value meal?
Oh, dude, I hear you.
And a Coke too. So
And a Coke.
it was all good.
Did you throw it up?
No. Like the fourth hat came in and saw me. He's just like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "Aye, sir."
What's going on?
Oh no, I didn't throw it up. Later on, we went to a baseball game, and let me just tell you something about that one. Like, everybody thinks like going to the baseball game is like legit and cool and whatever. They make fun of the West Coast Marines for that.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, like you go there and they tell you like you're gonna eat everything. They give you $40. You get $40 at the ATM. You eat everything. That's when you come out and you're just messed up.
Bad times.
They make you go to dinner chow. They make you fill up your plate, 2 glasses of milk, and then you go back to the squad bay and you run.
Get slayed.
That was the worst day of boot camp. That was 2 weeks before we graduated.
That same thing happened to me on the East Coast. Only we didn't go to a baseball game.
Oh.
They just let us have it like a family day or something.
Okay, yeah.
And we could eat whatever we wanted and go walk around the base. And I ate like a chocolate bar, and I ate like a Like, I think like a Wendy's greasy ass burger. Dude. Got back, got slayed, puked. There was puke everywhere.
Okay, that's good to know. I thought we were like an anomaly. But okay, so it teaches you something, you know? You're like 2 weeks away from graduating. And, you know, here you are. You thinking you're you know, legit, about to get your EGA. You're puking and pissing in the squad bay because they won't let you go to the head, you know, and just puke and piss everywhere, and you're just hating your life. And just like, it dawns on you. Well, it didn't dawn on me at the time, but looking back now, you're always a boot.
To somebody.
To somebody. To something. And it doesn't matter how awesome you think you are. Like,
you could be humbled.
Be humble. Yeah. You know? So that taught me a good lesson at the time.
Yeah, man. And that's a good place to learn that one. So you don't have to learn it later.
Yeah. I learned it later, too.
I think I learned it later. So let's fast forward. You go out of boot camp. What's your first unit?
Went to SOI. Went to something called receiving, I think. And we just sat there.
Like forming?
For weeks. Ready to pick up.
At SOI?
That was terrible.
Wait, what year are you talking now?
This was 02.
02 middle, probably?
Yeah, I got there August 13th of 02.
They just had a huge influx of people wanting to come in, huh? And so it was just like stacking them, huh?
I think we had to wait about a month to actually pick up. So we were just cleaning and hating our life until then. Got there. It was awkward, and it was just, I don't want to sound arrogant or cocky, but like none of our instructors were combat.
It's not like it is.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, and they were like good dudes. They really were, you know. Taught us a lot, but at the same time, like I was thinking to myself and just my arrogance, I'm like, I'm going to see combat before you. You know? And
you did, right?
And I did.
Yeah, so. And
I did, yeah. And that's not kudos to me or anything like that.
And it's not even a slam against them.
It's not.
It's like they just didn't have the opportunity.
It's more of a slam against me for being arrogant and not listening to them, as you know. But you know how it is. You graduate boot camp, you think you're legit and everything like that. But they taught me well. So I check in at 3-5, and that's where I learned my lesson, like day one. Like the few corporals got like right in front of me, and it's just kind of intimidating. And I was the only one to check in. I didn't have like anybody else. And I'm sitting there in my alphas, and they're like, all right, Boot, you're going to clean your room, and then you're going to clean our room, and that room, and his room, and my room. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm thinking, well, what I said to them was like, no, I'm not. I'm thinking like, well, I'm a Marine now. So like, that's not how it
You're
works.
not going to treat me like that.
Yeah. Like I was lost. I was so lost. I set myself up for failure. I really did. Like, so like right in the middle of me saying, no, I'm not. And like their jaws dropping right before they, annihilate me. My gunnery sergeant was walking by, and he introduced himself as the platoon sergeant, Octaviano Gallegos.
Shout out.
Sergeant Major. Oh, yeah, one of the best Marines I've ever known. Like, without a doubt. He's just, you got the field Marines, you got the garrison Marines. This guy was everything. And he was at the top of his game at everything. But on this day, he's like, Kerman, what are they doing? What's going on? I'm like, well, gunnery sergeant, they want me to clean their rooms for them. And da-da-da-da-da. Like,
oh, boy.
So I think I won the day, but, like, after that, I didn't realize, like, I set myself up for complete failure. Like, they hated me. With good reason. Like,
yeah, that's a good reason.
That's a stupid boot right there, like.
Well, Gunny, let me tell you exactly what they've been
Yeah,
doing.
I didn't say it like that, but it was, I'm in parade arrest, and he takes them into the room, and it just didn't go well for them.
Yeah.
At all. And, like, they were very bitter after that. And so we're like, so he was my platoon sergeant. This guy ran to work. He'd run like 4 or 5 miles into work.
What's his name? Octaviano
Gallegos. He did like, I think he was a drill instructor, 8th and I, recon. I mean, he did everything.
Just a beast.
Yeah. So, he ran 300 PFTs until he like retired.
Probably still runs them.
Yeah, I mean, he was just an animal. So he's the platoon sergeant, and then Shantosh is the platoon commander. And
what was the first meeting with him like? or did you not really even have one?
Yeah, I actually did. I was sitting in the company office, and one of the guys was like, "Oh, this guy's going to CAT. He's going to CAT." Well, I'm like infantry. I don't want to go to CAT. CAT sounds like a construction piece of equipment or something like that. I don't.
You didn't realize what CAT was.
Yeah, I didn't know what CAT was. Nobody ever told me. So I'm just like, maybe I'm in the wrong place, So I meet Shantosh, and he's like, all right, tow gunner, da-da-da-da. Real quick meeting. He just came off as, like, really cool. I was like, that's like, I didn't expect that from a lieutenant. I've never seen that before. Mm-hmm. He was prior enlisted, and I didn't know his whole history, but he definitely came off different. Week 1 started up. It was like a 12-mile run on Monday.
With them?
Yeah, the whole platoon, but, like, then we had like 8-mile hike, and then like another run on Friday. That first week was killer, and then the field day on Thursday, going until like 3 a.m. And it was a rough week, but it was like it was a good way to get into it.
That's that culture shock you're talking about right there.
Yeah, and it didn't change. Like we did ridge-line runs Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like I don't remember a green on green 3-mile run like
ever.
Yeah, like the longest one we did was like boots and utes. It was 4:30 in the morning to like 11:30 in the morning. It was like 18 miles.
Just staying after it.
O course, bull in the ring. I mean, I think I broke my rib that day. There's just, but it was awesome though because like at the end of the day, we painted Cat 3.5 on the regimental O course wall. I think Shantosh got in a little bit of trouble for that, but I'll be honest though, like you felt like a king. Here you are like a PFC, and all these guys, like I hated them at the time. Don't get me wrong, I really did, and they hated me. And I'm just like, all they ever do is mess with me. They're not making me better, and you're young and you don't get it. I took it personal, but I did know I was part of something special because I mean we annihilated competition on PFTs.
You're just better than everybody, right?
Yeah, and so. I had one guy who was like charged with taking care of me, and that was Frankie Quintero, Corporal Quintero.
Shout out.
Great guy, awesome dude. He's now my brother-in-law. Married Lindsay, my older sister, and known him for many years. Yeah, big shout out. Like just one of the most awesome guys I've known. He was like the one guy who would take time to teach me, mentor me, and help me through the process.
He was a corporal when you were.
He was he got promoted like that week.
Okay.
To corporal. So fast forward a little bit. I mean, I checked in October 2002. By February, we were in Iraq, and that was an ordeal getting to Iraq. We'll say that we were like the first platoon to leave. And the last platoon to get there. We had an issue in Rota, Spain.
Okay.
It was
like aircraft issue or a Marine issue?
Our platoon like beat the crap out of a bunch of people at the O Club or the E Club or something like that.
Okay.
So I think like a NATO general got involved and like it was
in the fight or in the punishment? In the
punishment. Like we stayed there for like 3 or 4 days.
That's why we can't have nice things. Very Marine of y'all.
I could probably talk for like an hour just about that one story. It was very Marine of us. Yeah, one guy.
Okay, let's get into it. How'd that happen? Because I've done the connection flights and I've never been in a platoon brawl on one of them. So
all right, so a little negative on this one is I wasn't there. This is all like story that I get to hear because they're like, "Boot, you're on weapons watch. Stay on the plane." So I'm sitting there on the plane, just, and then like that night they come and get me and they're just like, "Shut up, just." Get in the bed, get in the rack. Don't do anything to anything. There's drama, craziness going on. There's drunk, everything. And I'm just like, one guy fell out of the rack, broke his leg, and I don't know where my leadership is, but I'm not saying a word at this point. I kind of learned my lesson.
I'm laying right here.
Quiet, Well, I guess what happened was like, they're all having this great time and they're like these Army first sergeants in there and how Marines are, around other services. Like we're better, right? At least we, in our mind, say that. And I guess one of the guys was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get him," and I guess the Marines were like, "Yeah, do it." So he just cold cocks him right there.
The Marine cold cocks the Army guy?
Some airmen.
Oh.
And we had our lance corporals apparently like throwing bottle caps at the first sergeants, like all night. So the story I hear is basically like our platoon went through the airmen and the Army and then went off on each other. It was just like a big brawl, And I
we're gonna beat everybody up, And then when we run out of people to beat up, we're going to beat the shit out of each other.
And, which was like, well, that's on par for this platoon.
Perfect.
You know? Like, you know, beat up everybody and then beat up yourself. So, and I'm still highly impressed with these guys. Don't get me wrong. Like, I hated them, but like I really revered them and looked up to them. And even at that point, you know, and I still hated them. But so we get over, and you know, fast forward like a month later, and like, you know, the bulk of combat is done in Iraq, and these guys were so awesome the way they performed. You know, it's like looking back now, they're young. I'm not going to say they're kids. They're young men who had never been in combat before, and they just
weren't even trained by anybody in combat, really.
But
That's what's even more impressive.
Two things Shantosh always said. He said physical fitness and discipline. He's like, that's all I care about. And we had that, you know, for the most part, you know, aside from the booze. Spain, you know. Yeah. But, you know, alcohol takes people in a different place. So, but yeah, like physical fitness made them tough. Discipline made them, you know, follow authority, you know, respect authority and obey orders. And when the bullets flew, nothing changed. You know, fear was not, well, it was there, but it wasn't a factor. And it's contagious. That's one thing about Shantosh. He was contagious. Like, even if it was just like a PT run or, you know, pass out, tap out, like it didn't matter what it was. He made it the way. He made it cool to where it was like, be the one who goes against it, you know? And like, you didn't want to go against it. It was,
you wanted to be a part of it.
You wanted to be a part of it, you know? And not every leader has that ability. He did. He would go to a company or a platoon and just the whole culture would change. And so, yeah, looking back, we were so fortunate to have him there. And Gallegos, the platoon sergeant, ended up going to like a different company. But the Marines in that platoon were very lucky to have him, you know, because we got in combat and we just ran over the top of them.
Yeah.
You know, and like I think we probably would have done that anyway. You look at the advantages and disadvantages in military speaking, but mentally, like the new Staff Sergeant Keeney, platoon sergeant, told us, he's like, when you go over there, just imagine you're already dead. So get fear out of there. The only thing that matters now is take care of the Marine to your left and right. And that was like really good advice. And like I remember talking to a lot of the guys who were, you know, we're all on the border of Kuwait and Iraq, and there's a lot of fear. But when he said that, it was like we kind of just relaxed, and we were just able to go in, do our job, do what we needed to do, and you know, worked out.
I think that's great advice. I think that when I pushed Margin 10, it was a couple days before I accepted that I wasn't coming home.
Right. Yep.
But damn it, once I accepted it, then you turn into something more because you don't mind. So you'll do a little bit more. You'll expose a little bit more. You'll run a little further because you already accepted it and you're not trying to run from it anymore. It's almost like you're running to it.
Without a doubt. Yep.
And I think that's great for combat. It's great all the way until you make it. And then when you make it, you've had this switch in your head flip that says, I'm already dead. And then you come back to the real world and you're not dead. And I think that can be a struggle for some people, at least initially.
Yeah, you kind of give me I got goosebumps when you said that. I've never really heard it put into that before.
No, because I think it makes you a great...
you're 100% correct.
Far better warfighter at the time to have that mindset.
It's great at the time.
But when you discontinue the rest of your life and then you come back to it, it's like...
It's hard to come back.
Or when you discount, not discontinue, when you discount it.
When we were thinking it was over at that time, we come home after the deployment, and then you hear about something called an IED, and I was like, what are those? Army's getting screwed up right now, you know.
No, wait. If we can go back.
Yeah. Sorry.
What was your first contact? Can you go through that?
Yeah. It was not good. So the platoon hates me, you know, and like
you think this is purely because of you're the only one to hate?
No, like I gave them reasons.
You can't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I gave them reasons. was trying my best, but at the same time, like, I didn't want to play the part of boot. I wanted to be, I'll be the new guy, but teach me. Don't just punk me out. Don't just, like, haze me.
Yeah.
And I think they were young. They were probably doing what their senior Marines did to them, But to me, it didn't make any sense. I'm like, I'm going to fight side by side with
you.
Make me better,
Yeah.
And Q did that. The other guys, it was just like a, gang up on the boot kind of thing. And it's fine. I think it helped me out. With everyone, you see the good, you see the bad, you take the good and you leave the bad,
Yeah, that's right.
And that's how it grew me up. But yeah, so we're in Kuwait. They turned...
Because you're like in the initial group that goes over, right?
Yeah.
Like generation kill style. Yeah.
So we get our vehicles, all these brand new vehicles that had never been used or anything like that. They're in the motor pool. And I had to be on watch with some corporal. And the corporal's smoking. It's nighttime, smoking on post. It's definitely the wrong thing to be doing, right? But he's doing it, And I'm just like, I think I was like a newly promoted lance corporal. I'm like, well, can I have a drag, corporal? He's like, yeah, sure. So I take one drag off this thing. Staff Sergeant Keeney comes out right then. He's like, Kerman! Good.
Fuck.
Wakes up the whole platoon. And, like, I didn't get to smoke anymore. Like, they banned me from smoking, and I had to pick up 1,000 cigarette butts a day, until we went to combat. So I'm just really hating my life. And they're hating me, too, because now they're being punished because, I smoked a cigarette at night on post. And
the corporal didn't stick up for you? Like, oh.
Nah. Yeah, it is what it is. So now we crossed the border into Iraq, and like the first few days, there's like nothing going on at all. We're going through the southern oil fields. The enemy is basically, we're passing some dead bodies in here and there, and we see Artie definitely got theirs, Air got theirs, and we're in the oil fields. Quintero is up on the gun. I'm just the A gunner. We got 5 dudes in our truck, and like no place to sleep. It was pretty cramped. And then the tows where you got the MGS, you got the vehicle's completely full. So I'm like sleeping, recruit style for like 5 days straight. Oh yeah, it was
cramped up.
And that was combat for like the first few days. And so he's tired. I go up there, and as soon as I get up there, I'm like, hey, I think I see like the enemy. Like there's like this deuce and a half truck. And these like 5 dudes in like dark outfits wearing like berets. But like, they don't seem like a threat. But I'm calling it up. I'm like, hey, 200 yards away, whatever. A little quick address. And they're like, are they the enemy? I'm like, I think they're not Marines, And so we get online and we start chasing these guys. They're driving away. And you got like a 240, a 50 cal, a tow. And then, I kid you not, there's an Abrams on our left flank, and we're like online chasing this truck.
You trying to catch them instead of shoot them, or
what we were trying to do. So They stop, and all these guys, like 5 guys, run to like the front of the truck. So now, maybe the truck was gonna stop our weapons from, basically the truck they're gonna use as cover. Well, we'd never been in combat before. But that's the enemy. Let's start shooting. 240 opens up, 50 cal starts opening up, a little bit less than accurate on the 50. So the tank was really cool and gracious. They were just like waiting, watching us do our thing, and they're like, shoot the tow. Like, it's 200 yards away with a tow. That's like a 1,500 yard shot with an M16. It's too close. It's not going to acquire the target. I had been up there for 5 seconds. I didn't even get a chance to like op check it. They're like, shoot it. I'm like, no. I'm being ordered to shoot. I'm like, fine, okay. And back ballast area all secure, tow on a wire, that whole thing. So it pops off and it goes out about 40 yards and just dumps into the berm and blows up. And come to find out later, they had the dust cover over the site, basically. Like, I could see, but the missile wasn't tracking because of that. And so my popularity with the platoon did not get any better. Like, people were passing me up. They're like, just stay in the back of the truck and don't do anything. You're worthless. And I'm hating my life.
So
dude,
bad,
it was horrible.
That sucks so bad.
And all I wanted to do was like prove myself.
Yeah.
You know? And I knew I was capable of more. You know?
Does it make sense that, like, I'm just, Monday morning quarterbacking here, but does it even make sense why the dust cover would have been on? Or do you travel with them on? Is that like at the time SOP? So you got to take it off before you make your shot.
I could see why he did it. I wouldn't have done it.
Right. Okay.
But, I was also a brand new Marine. I wouldn't have done it, but I could see why he had been up on the gun for days. And I think at some point he's like, well, I need to protect the weapon system.
Yeah.
So I kind of get that,
Yeah.
But I didn't have time to do anything.
And then it's like right now making
Literally,
decisions.
Yeah. So fired the toe, and it was a horrible miss. At that point, they called a ceasefire, and like we, closed with the enemy, and took these guys. We captured them. You
didn't kill any of them.
Didn't
the
kill any of
240s?
them.
No.
Yeah, nothing. Like I don't know. Gunners were off.
Well, I
the
mean, they
mark
probably
that
got
day or
intel
something.
from them. Shit.
A little bit of that, and the whole POW thing. The first few days, a lot of guys giving up, but and then I got my day. So we're moving up this highway.
No. Hold on.
Yeah.
Just for me, if we can go back a second. You capture these guys. You make this shot. People are kind of writing you off like this fucking idiot. Is this the next day?
I think it was a few days after.
So a few days of treatment.
Yeah.
And now we're going on another mission, or we're continuing the push, or can you set that up?
Yeah, a few days after, and then we finally got on, I think it was called Highway 1, and we're traveling north on it. We got 4 tanks in front of us, but we had not seen any action. So right now it's just like my only reputation. You miss the toe shot, you're worthless. Sit in the back and don't do anything. And it was lonely. I'll say that. It is not only you're in combat and you're fearful of your life, but like you're isolated even more because your entire platoon hates you.
Yeah.
Or at least I'm thinking that, And I just wanted a way to redeem myself, Like I was looking for that. I really was. And I ended up getting the opportunity. So I think a few days later we were setting up for the night, setting up the defense. And, I'm on the toe. I got the thermals up. And I just see all this movement, up north on the road. And so I called out to Quintero. I think they reported up to Battalion, but I'm not sure. Like nothing was done about it necessarily. But there was definitely a lot of action out there. So the next morning, column formation, 4 tanks in front of us, and Shantosh, I'm not sure why he did it. To this day, I probably should ask him, but he's like, "Hey, Kerman, get out of your vehicle. You're gonna ride with me today." I used to be like, we were 3rd from the front. Well, I ended up that day going in his truck, lead Vic, and I had no place to sit or anything. Like I'm literally on top of the Humvee.
You're dismount in the Humvee, or you're driving, or
no? McCormick's driving. There's a 50 cal gunner. There's an RO. There's a lieutenant, and then me sitting on top of the. He said he needs an extra pair of eyes. That's what he said. So I'm sitting on top of the Humvee, and I'm holding my my rifle
outside of it.
Outside of it, yeah. I'm not even in the turret. I'm just like on top of the vehicle, and the tanks stop, and one of them traverses about 2:00, and then further traversed 3:00. And when they did that, at first you're looking out in the distance. What do they say? And they were engaging something with a 50 cal, and so now our interest is peaked. We're stopped. 2:00, and then 3:00, and as soon as that tank went 3:00, everything just opened up. There's mortars, there's machine guns. Basically, there was a berm that was parallel with us, about maybe 40 yards off the road. And we looked right, we're all looking straight, and then we looked straight 3:00, and there's the enemy. I think it was like a platoon plus or something like that. I'm not sure, but like 60 enemy probably, up on the berm, and they're firing RPGs, machine guns, and everything. And this happened very fast. So like I'm sure other people in the column have like a different take on it, or timing wise. All I know is our vehicle beelines it for like this small break in the berm. It's about a vehicle size break.
Just cuts right and goes.
And it occurred to me about like 20 yards into it that like the driver forgot I was up there because we're going up over bumps and everything. I'm catching air. I'm holding the inside of the turret, holding my rifle, and I'm just catching air. And like, they don't care about me at all. Like, I could fall off this thing, whatever. And so we get into the break. I dismount, and immediately, I don't mean this in a bad way when I say this, okay? So Shantosh immediately takes my rifle. He's like, and it was implied, like, this is the right thing, but he got out too. He's like, give me that. And like, I gave it to him. Mm-hmm. I gave it to him, not more than he just took it. I don't mean that for people to like look at this and like, he's talking crap, you know. He needed it because he saw there was like flank security on there, and he immediately like took 2 guys out that were like 10 yards away. Mm-hmm. So
like you break into this break in the berm, and as soon as you hit the brake, you can see the enemy left and right.
Yep. Yeah. And there weren't many to the left, but there were to the right. There was a lot to the right. And so he goes to the right, and now I'm like weaponless real quick. So I'm right next to the Humvee. So I go in and I grab the 50 cals, the gunner's rifle, mm-hmm. which is not BZO'd to me in any way, shape, or form.
Now, can the gunner not get on these guys?
I'll be honest, I wasn't paying attention to him.
Okay.
At the time. Maybe he couldn't, because I think we were at a point in the berm where like his geometry was not lined up straight down. Mm-hmm. You know, we had to move about 5 more yards, 6 more yards
to flatten him out.
Yeah. And I mean, looking back, if we would have moved up 5 more yards, it would have made everything simple. You know,
wop wop. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Butterfly up.
Good question. Actually, I've never been asked that. So they're going to the right, and I'm thinking, well, somebody needs to cover to the left. And so, you know, I cover down on the 180 type of thing, and there's like 3 enemy. I start shooting at them, and I'm missing. And I'm just like, it's kind of weird what goes through your mind at that time. And I'm shooting and missing at like 30, 40 yards. And I'm just like, nothing's going right in my life. You know? Like, what is happening right now? You know, I go from like company high shooter at boot camp to missing the enemy. Yards. It's most frustrating. I still have dreams, literally, where I'm shooting the enemy. I'm like squeezing the trigger, and I'm missing everybody.
And it won't happen, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of creepy, but that's what was happening, you know. And but I am seeing my impacts on the berm. I had that, so I just start aiming like 3 feet up and about 1.5 feet to the right.
Just offsetting them.
Yeah, and those 3 were gone, you know. And so I turn around, and these guys are like 20 yards ahead of me. Yeah.
No, well, I was just... What are these guys... When you make that left to cover down, and Chantage is now going right.
Yeah, and McCormick too.
And McCormick's going right, so you button hook to cover their back, see these 3 dudes, and you just go ham on. Boom, 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 boom. Now, are they in the same spot? Are they...
They were like trying to run
spread
away.
Out? Oh, they're running from you.
Yeah, they were... I think they had like a hole, maybe a tunnel or something like that, because like they were stopped. You know, They weren't like necessarily like running, but they were definitely trying to get away or evade us to some extent. Yeah. But I knew that like by leaving them...
Oh, you can't leave them.
Now our backs were exposed.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and so they went down, and then I turned back, and like they're already like 20 yards down the berm, so I catch up to them. And one thing is that being in CAT, you know, we're going to stay mounted probably this whole time, right? So, you know, all our magazines we put on these bandoliers like over the seats.
Yeah.
And so when we dismount, we got nothing.
Yeah.
As far as ammo is concerned. I did have an extra in my right cargo pocket. And so I'm working with 2 mags, and at this point, weapons are starting to jam like crazy, you know? Like 1 weapon jams, give it up, like clear, start shooting.
You mean Chantage?
Yeah, his would jam up.
So he'd hand it back to you to clear it?
And I'd take it, start clearing it out, and but then that one would jam. And I remember clearing it out like at least 2 times. One of them was like a Type 4. It was a bad malfunction. And I remember seeing at the range, I don't know how I remember this, but I remember seeing a drill instructor like pull the charging handle back and slam it on the deck.
Yeah. And
the round came out. But until then, you know, you're trying to pull back, there's nothing happening. And so I did that, and it cleared, and which was kind of cool. You know, I didn't even know. I was like, maybe this will work, and it worked. And so at this point, I don't even know what's in my rifle. You know, I'm shooting. There's like guys about 200 yards away. Here's the thing: there's guys 10 yards away. There's guys 200 yards away. It was just kind of weird the way
in a line.
Yeah, we came up on people. Like some people were noticing, some people were not. You know, and so we're going down the line just shooting. But there's far targets.
Because these guys are still firing at the ambush on the road, right?
Right.
And they didn't even know that you'd broke in, so now you're coming down, and with all the chaos of them, they think they have flank security, and you guys are coming down just wiping.
Yeah, they were tunnel visioned on the battalion. So it started to work out real well, but like there's still only 3 of us, and with the other guys noticing, and you know, we're getting return fire at this point, and I remember getting like 2 guys far off, just seeing them fall when I shot. But like McCormick and Shantosh, they were going close, you know, and what happened? We basically ran out of ammunition. McCormick and Shantosh were like, we're getting out of here. So we're running. But there's like 5 guys chasing us. And, you know, at this point, I don't even know what's in my rifle. But, you know, there's dirt kicking up around us. And, you know, I'm going to get one in the back at any point, right? I was done with it, man. Like, I just remember being like, F this. I remember screaming that out, like, fuck, you know, and I turn around, I get in the prone. Like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to go out like that, not getting one in the back. And so the first 2 guys, one shot, both, they were running at us and shooting.
What kind of range are we talking about?
They were about 20 yards.
Oh, they're on you.
Yeah.
So you just button hook and drop to the prone?
Yep.
And then just let them eat?
2 of the guys got down on the prone and started shooting. One shot on them. And then the other guy was like, oh, dude. And so I
took him down.
Yeah.
He died tired.
Slow, steady squeeze. Took that guy. And then that was an awkward moment in the fight, too, because I got done doing that. I think Shantosh and McCormick were like, what the hell got into you, you know? So they look at me, and I'm just like, I start laughing. I'm like, what? They're just like, oh, let's get out of here.
Nothing. Come on.
And so we get back, and this is kind of crazy, but like one dude, one of the enemy was like really close to the vehicle. I don't know why he didn't do anything at the time, but all I know is as I'm running from the front to the rear, Thomas Franklin, the gunner, like opens up on this guy, point blank. I'm thinking he's trying to kill me because he
with the 50?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, he drops the T&E, and I see a muzzle like right here, and I just get down. He starts opening up, and the concussion from each shot is like reverb, you know, in my head, and you know, the guy got torn to pieces. He did a great thing. One thing I skipped is as we were like closing on the berm, he's actually taking people out. Yeah, and so I mean, it saved our butts on that.
So you stayed right in the gun while the truck's going crazy and coming in on these guys, just letting her eat.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job. That guy was cool too because like he got stop lossed. He was always like, there was like my seniors, you know, they're like 2-year mark, and then there were like the guys who got stop lossed, and they were not people to mess with, you know, like they were in college and like
they were
working
already
jobs.
Angry before they got there.
Oh yeah, you know, so I didn't talk to them and they didn't talk to me, but they were kind of cool because they didn't mess with me either, not really, you know, it was the other guys, and he was cool, he was solid, he was very dependable, good guy, but
now was this guy like coming up to get you?
Franklin, the gunner?
No. The
I
guy shot.
I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't even see him. All I know is I thought Franklin's trying to kill me. You know, I see the 50 cal, and then I look and this guy's just disappearing before my eye.
Just getting wrecked.
Yeah. So that kind of ended it.
Does this change the dynamic from the way the platoon looks and treats you at all?
Yeah. So our section leader at the time, basically before we left, was like, he gets like everybody in one side and he's like, Kerman, you're never going to be like us. You're never going to be one of us, no matter what you do. Like, screw you. We hate you. And I'm just like, gosh, man, you know. And he told me, he's like, you can't smoke. Like, you're banned from smoking. I love smoking, especially in combat, like, you know. And so I didn't have a cigarette for like a few weeks. So I'm really stressed out, like I definitely had to go kill somebody that day or something, right?
Yeah.
But I think at that point, this dust storm started coming. The whole sky turns orange.
Oh yeah.
It felt like an apocalypse or something.
Like the movie The Mummy.
Yeah.
I didn't think that shit was real until I was over there.
Right? Yeah. So as soon as the firefight ended, like we took some tow shots on enemy trying to get out of the area, and they were hit. Basically, the truck's full of dudes, like the enemy.
Fuck yeah.
And I was actually
dust cover was off the site.
So 3 tows online. I'm looking at it, and they take their 2 shots, probably about 2,000 meter shots, and I'm just observing at this point. I'm not going to take a shot because I don't want to cross wires or anything like that. And they go behind a little hill, disappear for a minute, and these gunners just tracked by time, not seeing it. As soon as the vehicle appeared, one missile went over, and one just obliterated. I mean, pieces flying everywhere, and that ended it. It was over. It didn't take long, maybe 10 minutes at the most, I think, and they were all dead. I don't remember any being wounded.
Everything. Well, I mean, you talk about the shock could kill you anyway, just from the explosion. You might not even take fragments,
I think maybe in the back there were some wounded or something like that. Maybe we took a few prisoner, but we had 1 KIA. My vehicle, the vehicle that I was actually supposed to be in that day, right where I was sitting, took an RBG right in there. Our corpsman was killed, and then that same RPG like grazed Quintero. So, the guy who had been like my mentor, that just a really solid dude, was gone. He got wounded. I didn't know if he was dead or not. Like nobody. I got back to that vehicle, and they're like, "Yeah, come back because we need you." We only got 2 people left. The VC and the driver. So now I'm full-time gunner over there. Mm-hmm. And but everything changed within 10 minutes of the fight ending. Dudes are just like starting to talk about what happened, and a few of the guys who I thought hated me are like my best friends now, coming up like, "Dude, we heard what you did, man." Like that. I was like, "Can I have a cigarette?" So I'm smoking.
All I wanted was a cigarette the whole time.
And the section leader's looking at me like mad. So I just take this long drag, and I just stare at him. Like, what are you gonna do?
Like, fuck you.
What are you gonna do at this point? Which was dumb, but everything kind of changed, and it settled back down. Like that whole went away, and they went back to hating me for a little while, but because I was their boot, like nothing's ever
your job.
in that. Yeah, it's their job. So
as bad as that is to say, in the beginning they only knew what was done to them.
Yeah.
And I'm not making excuses, because at some point you got to pull your head out of your ass and say, hey, this might be the guy that's saving my life here soon, and I probably shouldn't treat him like shit. I should probably make him better, like you're talking about. But in the beginning, that wasn't the case.
No, exactly. And so, things did change a little bit, but like, that really, it's not going to be, you're not boys.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be.
No.
You just shouldn't be. That's just the way it is in the Corps. And so things changed. After that, we had contact every day until like the end of the war. Which I think the war only lasts like 3 weeks or something, but still every single day. And
after
it was just really neat, man. Like getting shot at, not even scared, observing, looking for the enemy, call out the ADRAC, engage, do what we needed to do. And it's as contagious as that was. I mean, the entire platoon did it except for like one guy. There was one guy who didn't, and he got replaced real quick.
Not the place where you can not be firing.
Yeah.
Not the kind of deployment where you can just
hiding behind a tire when some guys perform, some guys don't. You know, but at that platoon, like except for one, like everybody did.
Everybody.
It was just the neatest thing.
That is something that's cool. Anytime I talk to Marines or Marine leaders, it's like at the end I usually ask them what was the most gratifying thing that you experienced, and almost to a T, every one of them says watching the Marines that I trained or that I worked with do what they were supposed to do in austere conditions. And it's like, yep, that's mine too. Like when you see Marines do what Marines are trained to do, they're good at it.
I would agree 100%.
It's freaking amazing to watch.
It is, and just this I guess at this point in my life, I'm so grateful. You know, I don't talk to any of those guys, but like, I'm so grateful that I was a part of that group and that they were who they were. Because, you know, love or hate, it doesn't matter. Like, they did such a great job. And, you know, for me anyway, with my dad being in the Marine Corps and hearing the stories, and you go to boot camp, you hear about all this. You know, my grandfather was in World War II also, like Tarawa, Saipan, and I mean, there's lineage of history in my family, and then you actually get to experience it and you perform well and you win the day, you know. It was still very like not a lot of. That was my only experience. We won, you know, and it was tough going back because we knew we'd end up going back. Our next deployment was Phantom Fury, and that's when all the negative stuff happened in my life.
But before that, I just want to talk about it in the write-up. But what was the outcome of awards on that berm?
Oh,
because there was 3 or 4 of you, right? Three of you.
Yeah, I think you know
that entered the.
Santosh got Navy Cross, McCormick and I got Silver Stars. I think Franklin and Cordy, the RO, he like took some guys captive or something like that. I forget. I think they got NAMs with V's or Navy comms or something like that. And again, I'm naive at the time. I'm like, oh,
like, do you even know that? Like, did they even tell you? Because like,
not really.
In my experience, I didn't know awards were happening until awards happened, kind of thing.
There was this guy named Mata in our platoon, and I remember he came up, and he's like, real serious guy. Like this dude meant business. And he I'm not gonna go on all the stories, but he was not a person to mess with. And he walks up, but he was also cool. Like there was a light-hearted, you know, part of him. And I don't know if he was messing with me or serious. I don't know, but he walks up and he's just like, you know, I'm not impressed about your Bronze Star, right? I could care less. And walks away. It was like during the war, and I'm like, Bronze Star? What are you talking
You know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I had no idea. You know, later on, you find out you got put in for an award. I got a meritorious promotion. I don't think anybody expected me to get. In fact, Shantosh told me that. He's like, we didn't expect you to get this, but we put you in, and you got it. So, 13 months, Corporal. You think my senior Marines were a little upset about that?
Oh, I bet they were happy as hell.
Oh, dude. But you know, kind of thing what I was alluding to, I guess, transition from this. Everything was great at that point. Meritorious promotion. I'm going to get decorated. We won. We took 1 KIA, which really sucked. But aside from that, like.
But that's pretty good numbers.
I mean, you know, it's.
Especially for an invasion.
Right. You know, inherent. It's going to happen. And up to that point, it's everything you see in the movies. It's everything you want it to be. And I was so naive. So I got when it started to go downhill, I go back and, you know, I'm like, man, deployed, combat, doing this. Like, I guess I should get married now. So I get married. Yeah, it all went downhill with that.
Check the box.
Yeah, I'm a walking, talking.
Get up out of these
brief,
bricks.
You know, yeah, yep. And that wasn't bad yet, but then April 17th, 2004, I lost my best friend. So he was a year behind me in high school. I got him to join, and I remember telling his mom at his boot camp graduation, she was really worried, and I told her, like, don't worry, by the time he even gets there, the war is going to be over. And I was right. The war was over. But then you had something called, you know, IEDs and the insurgency that I guess a lot of people didn't see coming. So I sure as heck didn't. You know, and it's starting to ramp up. And he's with 3-7, Lima 3-7. And, April 17th, 2004, up in a place called Haseba. I think it was up by the Syrian border. They got into it, and he was KIA that day. Gary Van Leuven. Just awesome dude. And that's like, everything changed. Like, at this point, you know, you got that happening. The Fallujah Bridge, what was it? Blackwater?
Yeah.
That all happened. And
got
then the
strung
first
out.
push. Yeah, like all that. And then Nick Berg, remember that guy?
Yeah.
Yep. And now I'm so bitter. I'm so full of hate.
Yeah.
You know, and like 3 weeks later, I get awarded my Silver Star. I didn't even care about that. I just wanted to go back and kill people.
Yeah.
Like it just, you know, I was young and like just everything hit at once.
Yeah.
Marriage, best friend dying, like it's the downward slope is starting to occur. And so we trained our butts off to go to. We knew we were going. We went to Fallujah and house to house and that whole thing. We did exactly what we trained for. Like we knew it was coming. We trained for it, and you know, but it's inherent in that type of fighting. You're gonna take your casualties, you know.
A lot.
A pretty good amount. Yeah, I forget the exact number. And being in CAT, you're almost insulated to some extent because you're support. You're just a 03 Pogue, you know. And so, you know, my role at that time was I was a sectional. I had 2 trucks basically, and our section was tasked with convoy security, logistics convoy security. So, I mean, we're fuel, ammo, casualties, and you know, we kept going on. In between Fallujah is like, and this small little village, I forgot what it was called, Sacagawea, I don't know, Sacktown, they call it.
Sacagawea.
Yeah, something like that. I think we called it that, but that's like an Indian name or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
A notable historic.
Dude, anything went. Called it Sacktown. So between there, like, we just kept making this right turn across the desert and back to Route Mobile to Fallujah, Camp Fallujah, and or Bahariya. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm still young, but at the time, I'm like, something's gonna happen here at this turn. Like we've got to be getting observed by somebody, you know. And so I go to the 3, the 4. I'm just reporting to anybody I can. Like, we need a post right there. We need it. It's got to happen. Like, there's too many vehicles going and crossing that one spot over and over again. You know, 100 yards away is this little village. Enemy's got to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so come back and, like, an IED hits and, like, 2 guys get killed.
At
Like,
that place?
Right. I gave them a 10-digit grid of where it would be. I think it was, like, 3 yards off, 3 meters off, you know. And, like, the next day there's, like, this post. I'm like, are you kidding me? So, like, maybe I didn't speak up. Maybe I should have, like, done something different, you know, because, like, I saw this before it happened. So that sucked. And then I think it was, like, December 14th, December 12th. I was attached to Kilo Company. Kilo Company took a lot of casualties, and it was Corporal Johnson, I think it was. Corporal Johnson, attached to his squad. He had 2 people left in his squad. So it was, like, me and 8 other guys from Weapons Company get attached.
Filled him in.
And, like, he ended up getting killed, like, 3 days after that. And, you know, but on this day, before he was KIA, like a block away from the Kilo Company CP, a platoon had gone out to look for blankets because it's freezing. We didn't have cold weather gear or anything like that. So they go in, and the first guy up the stairs is killed. They're, like, this pocket of insurgents up in these like, 2 buildings, basically. And so very quickly, like, we're coming back as this popped off, back to the CP. You know, daylight is pretty much starting to cease, and the whole company is running out. And we're like, what the heck's happening, you know? You realize there's something going on in these 2 buildings. I immediately get these 2 trucks, like, you know, rear security.
Mm-hmm.
If you see anything come out, you know, blast it. And so the whole building's cordoned off, and I'm doing accountability to my guys. I'm like, one of my Marines is missing. I'm like, what? Like, where's Munoz at? And they're like, I think he went up in one of the buildings. So I'm like, stay here, don't move, nobody goes anywhere. So I run over to this building, and all hell's breaking loose. Like,
In the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
And
after
outside of it, man, like, I'm not going to get it. I'm very bothered by this day because we were trained to use supporting assets, supporting arms, you know, and on this day we didn't. You know, somebody made that call, and when they made that call, it was like, no, my guy's got this. And within 15 minutes of that decision, I think like 5 more KIA, over 20 wounded, like mass CAS drill. It was horrible. And I remember dragging 2 of those guys across the street, and I mean, they were just, you know, and just, we got our butts kicked, basically.
Did you find Munoz?
Yeah, Eventually I found him. He was like somewhere else.
He was in the house or not?
Yeah, he did go in the house, and like I went in trying to find him, and there's this gunny like, get up there, go. And I don't know, it was like this bit of common sense at the time. I'm like, well, actually, no. I know why I said this. We went to March Air Force Base earlier in that year. Gunny Stoughton, who ended up becoming a gunner, was overseeing our training. I had a squad, and we go in and we make contact, and like any good Marine, attack the enemy. So I'm throwing guys to the front, throwing guys to the back, and we're just getting, it's a meat grinder. We're getting tore up. So Gunny Stoughton just like stops training. He's like, Kerman, come here. Why would you do that? I'm like, well, it's the enemy. We got to go kill him. He's like, why would you not call in like tanks or air, like anything?
A rocket, something, yeah.
Marine with a rifle. Well, I was like, oh, I didn't know it was an option. He's like, bro, it's always an option. And so yeah, that happened, and then fast forward, now we are, December 2004, and this is happening right before my eyes, and this gunny's like, go, and I was attached to this company. Nobody knew me. I wasn't wearing rank or anything like that. So I'm like, Gunny, go after yourself. Nobody's going up there. We're pulling out. We're calling in an air. Get out of here. I guess I had some like force behind it when I said it or something like that. He's like, it just kind of stutters. He's like, aye, sir. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, the two lance corporals behind me are like, thank you so much, And at the time, I'm not thinking much of that, but like, I'm glad I made that. Months before, you don't even see that was the most clear-cut example of realistic training transferring to
on the
real-life
battlefield,
situation and saving lives, literally. I credit Gunny Stoughton 100%, and it was a bad day. We ended up getting everybody up. I think they called in air and devastated, destroyed those buildings, and the enemy died.
And nobody else did.
But I mean, it was so. I knew why that decision. I knew what led to that. I knew what decision led to that, and I know who did it. And so.
Was it somebody that was just trying to make a name for themselves, or was it gross negligence, or is it poor training? Like, what leads to that decision? Because like you're saying, that seems pretty clean cut for somebody that knows what they're doing or has any experience at all. It's like, no, we don't, like, this isn't the Red Army. We just don't send our guys into it, especially when we have tech. And that, I don't know how much UAVs we had, but we had fixed and rotary wing, at least at that time with HIMARS or
Fixed.
with Hellfires.
Okay, fixed, rotary,
you had
tank,
it all, right?
AAVs, 2 cat sections, rockets, missiles, everything. And it wasn't used. So, all right, to your question, I don't know. On my nice days, I want to be like, well, they were just doing what they thought was right, and it ended up being wrong. On my bad days, I'm just like, that gave me PTSD for years. That in combination with, I checked into recruiting duty a few years later. Mm-hmm. He was my RS commander.
The person who made that call?
Yeah. And I found out, like, you got a Bronze Star that day. And you got promotion. 2 Bronze Stars, and then, like, you find out about, Hawthorne. And he was, like, the battalion commander for that. And he just, like, I remember hearing from the Marines over that unit, just like, yeah, this guy just, like, pushes us all the time. Pushes us no matter what. And like, it doesn't matter like how tired, it doesn't matter like what we've been through, just throws us into it. And it was like, I knew a guy like that in Fallujah, And
he's been awarded for doing so ever since the beginning, eh?
Yeah, and again, I want to forgive, and I want to understand that people are human and they make mistakes. But at that point in time, it really affected me, to see that. And yeah, there were people trying to make a name for themselves. Like, I don't know if that was him, though. I think he genuinely meant well, but I think in his mind, the same way I did in training, this is the mission. Throw the Marines into the meat grinder, let them accomplish the mission, kill the enemy. Like, he did it like that, except this wasn't training when he did it. Mm-hmm. And so, he took a lot of casualties in his company, and I think ultimately, like, a good guy, nice guy, but like, you need somebody who mixes mission accomplishment and troop welfare a little bit better. Smarter, not harder type of thing. And somebody who would listen to the enlisted. Because around him at that time, before that decision, you had staff NCOs and sergeants like, sir, we got this. Like, what do you want to do? It's like, no. My guys got this. Everybody's just like, huh? It's just such a out and left field decision.
Sounds like gross negligence, but
I think so. Probably.
There was a mindset. There's a mindset there was in the gunner community. Like when I got home from Marja, I had a gunner that was given a class at Marine Combat Instructor course talking about how being pinned down was a frame of mind. And I'm like, I shouldn't raise my hand, but I'm going to. Mm-hmm. And I did, and I got an ass chewing over it, but I'm like, no, sir, I've been pinned down.
Right.
Literally.
Yep.
Well, where the fuck do you think you've been pinned down at? And told him where. He's like, well, I ain't talking about marching. But his point was, why are we calling in ordnance on one guy bearing an IED? Why are we calling in ordnance on something that a rifle squad could handle? So it's kind of like that same mentality. And for me, it's like, nope. Mm-hmm. Nope. If I have my way, I'm calling in ordnance before my guys even get in range.
Why not?
Of somebody else. Like, why do we have all these missiles strapped to the bottom of these planes and helicopters? Yeah, are we saving money? Like, what are we doing? Yeah, because I had a situation like the day we lost Hanson in 10. We tried to fire bigger ordnance. The mortars missed. Called in skids. When the skids came in, we didn't have a JTAC, so we had type 2 control, and they couldn't get PID, even though there was 2 machine guns in a bunker getting after it.
Right.
That kind of stuff could have saved lives. It's kind of different. It's a little different because we had
There's a connection, though. There is. So, and it's frustrating when you know what could have happened versus what did, and, it's inherent. Again, you're going to lose people, and I get that, man.
It's war.
And that never affected me. I came back from that deployment, like, killing people, seeing people killed. It didn't. That's combat. That's what you join for, But when it happens like that, that's not cool. And then there was another situation. And this is kind of what you were referring to earlier. There were a lot of guys out to make their career, out to get an award. When I say a lot, that's a relative term. But most of the Marines just wanted to survive, do their job, and take care of their buddy to their left and right. But there are people out there, putting themselves on post. Like, at your rank, sir,
that they wouldn't
you
be.
have no business here. What are you trying to get shot? They are, because everyone's a combat action ribbon, and the OIF one was so pure. Nobody knew combat. Everybody was deathly scared because it's whatever. The awards occurred, and it was just. That made sense. But then you started seeing people get awards based upon rank. Mm-hmm. And it was like, hey, so-and-so, what are you doing on top of that gun? And then, 2 months later, you see you're standing in the award formation, and so-and-so fired blah, 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 and killed X amount of insurgents. And you're like, I was there. It was like 1,500 meters away, nighttime, and you're dumping 240 or Mark 19 rounds like into a building. You have no idea you killed anybody or not. But I guarantee a Lance Corporal never would have got. In fact, the Lance Corporal who got kicked off that gun didn't get anything. But when the other individual got up there, they got something. And so that's not good.
No.
I don't care what realm, what spectrum you want to talk about. It's not good there. It's not good later. That's a morale killer. Yep. I'm a firm advocate of I hate the award system. I really hate it because now people, end of tour award, well, if you get it, why don't these guys get it?
Yeah.
And it creates bitterness. And I do believe that E5 and below, 03 and below, maybe should be getting awards. After that, though, what's the point? What's the whole point for a guy who's been in for 12 years? Okay, you had a platoon for 3 years. You're getting a NAM or a Navy comm for doing your job. I don't like the awards thing. And then
I'm with you.
And that's just peacetime. That's just the end of tour. never mind the ones where it's like, this guy wrote himself up for what this guy did. And that happened too. I'm not going to say names, but I remember a certain individual who, he just retired as a lieutenant colonel, was like, Kerman, I'm gonna vent to you, man. Like, what I did, like, I don't want an award, don't get me wrong. But, like, what I did, so-and-so, like, wrote himself up and got a silver star for, like, my actions. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me, dude. You know?
That's tough. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you know, like, those people, they'll have to live with that. You wearing somebody else's award, you'll think about that every time you put your uniform on. You'll think about it every single time that you tell the story that wasn't your story.
You have to.
You have
right.
to. You
Yeah.
have to. And that's got to be such a... Because not only are you faking something that wasn't you, you're telling it over and over and over. So there's like envy. And then there's the fact that you're lying. And then there's the fact that you have to face that later on in the evening because you know you're lying, right? And
I felt like a mad hater too, because that guy spoke at my, he was the guest speaker at, like, when I was a recruiter. You know, Silver Star recipient, blah blah blah. It's like, let me tell you what really happened.
Yeah,
you know,
man,
and
that's
it's like
tough.
Everybody else is like, oh, he's a hero, and you're just sitting there like, okay, I know what really happened. And but then you also see another one that kind of made me sick: bad decisions, and then it's like guys would write up awards for like pity almost for guys who died. You know, and it's like, I guess I don't really want to go there too much, but you just start seeing selfish motive, careerism, and, you know, the class structure, I guess, if you will, the benefits for these guys, lack of accountability for these guys, and then you see why quality Marines get out, you know, and it's like they don't want to stay in for that type of stuff. And those are some extreme examples and everything like that, but right now it's
But they're examples, man, that if we don't talk about ever, because nobody wants to talk about that stuff. Nobody does. It even feels weird talking about it. Like I don't want to degrade them because they're still warriors, but at the same time, if we don't ever fix that, that will become a bigger problem than what it is right now. It becomes a problem where these people then move up to the levers of power. And those same people, if we don't fix it, go to the levers of power. And when they're there, that's a problem. It's a bigger problem than when they're down here not touching the levers of power.
And that is exactly what we're seeing play out right now, in my opinion.
It's exactly what we're seeing.
You know, and this happened a while ago, but it became the culture, and now that is the status quo. Mm-hmm. You know, and Marines aren't dumb. They may be enlisted and young, but they see what they see. And
100%.
You know, the Marines I'm in charge of right now, like, they don't want to stay in the Marine Corps. You know, they know that it's being treated as a corporate job, you know, by certain people.
I think by certain people it's being treated as a social experiment on how far can we change things? How far can we take this warfighting organization before they say no?
Without a doubt.
And I don't know where that experiment ends, but I can tell you it's not going to make us more deadly, and it's not going to make us more versed on the battlefield.
So I wanted to stay in. I didn't want to retire at 21 years. I wanted to stay in. I couldn't stomach it anymore. Mm-hmm. I couldn't live that lie anymore. It's not what it used to be. You know, at some point, the writing is on the wall, and you have to read it, and you have to make a decision. So I was on the fence for quite a while. Can we fix this? Can we save this? I gotta save it. I'm staying in. You know, I gotta do the right thing. Mm-hmm. I got my circle that my sphere of influence. You know,
yes.
It's a losing battle, and gosh, I don't want to be like this horrible naysayer or anything like that, but people are going to die based upon these policies. People are going to die based upon this lack of accountability for leadership. You know, the lack of priority for warfighting right now, because warfighting is not a priority in the Marine Corps, contrary to other people. And I don't want to take anything away either, because I know what people did in Afghanistan with the withdrawal, and like there's huge stories of heroism, and like you're always going to see that from the junior Marines.
At the operational level, you'll see it
always, you know, or tactical
level.
Yeah, I know what you meant, but you'll always see it, because like politics doesn't play around in a gunfight
Right.
anymore. Like, our Marines are awesome. I love them. I just couldn't be more proud the way they conduct themselves. And it doesn't matter. I think it's timeless almost in that. So I'm grateful for that. But you can definitely dig somebody into a hole before the fight begins. And they shouldn't have to dig themselves out of that hole. I remember my dad telling me, it was like, in Vietnam, it was like fighting a war with one hand tied behind your back. Things that they could have done to set them up for success, they didn't. It's like they didn't want to win the war. And at the time, I'm like, well, that sucks, man, like, we don't have that problem anymore. And then, fast forward X amount of years, and you're like, oh my gosh, they don't want to win the war. Like, that's not the priority. There's this and that. And
it's a racket.
It's
a lot of it's a racket.
It is. And
always has been a racket.
I'm fighting with this. I almost never get on Facebook and argue with people, but this dude yesterday is like telling me, he's like, politics has no place in war. And I'm like, in theory, that sounds really good, but war is really an extension of politics. And if you've ever served enough time, and he just kept denying. I was just like, okay, you're a naive boot.
It is literally the last full measure of completing a political objective, by definition, is what war is.
Thank you. And maybe I've gotten to an age and experience level. I got 6 kids. I got this great wife, and I've been blessed by God to like live through certain things and have all this. I don't want to go to combat again, and I'm not a coward. It's not that. It's really not that. It's just that I don't believe in why this country goes to combat, and
money, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean that's almost why every time.
Money and yeah, I think it boils down to that. Natural resources boils down to money. Yeah, to some extent, you have to keep your country going by that. There's certain wars that are worth being fought for those reasons. It's just that, like, don't lie to us. Don't tell it's for humanitarian and we're doing this and we're doing that. No, it's not. And
so you'd rather them just come right out and say, "Hey guys, we're coffers are empty. Daddy needs some oil. We gotta go. We gotta go start a war."
And then keep CNN away from us. Keep the cameras out. And
at least the truth was there.
Yeah. Instead of like this lie that it's like, oh, we're gonna go fight this war and fight the enemy, but we have these rules attached to how we do it. And it's like, no, like they don't play by the rules.
We're the only ones that play by those rules.
We're the only ones, And so like, like I hear the stories my dad told, and he does these reunions with like Kilo 3-5.
Yeah.
And you get like it's so cool meeting these guys. We used to meet them a whole lot. I was like younger, but a guy named R.V. Bergen.
Okay.
I don't know if you know him, but like, you ever watch The Pacific?
Yeah.
All right. So Bergen is like Sledge's squad leader.
Okay.
He ended up like going to Australia and marrying that girl and everything like that. So like that's a real dude. And he was Kilo 3-5, and I met him. And you hear his stories. There's guys from Korea there, Vietnam, and you're hearing all this. And they're so different in how they tell the stories. Because that dude would just matter-of-factly tell you what happened. And I'm not going to say his words. Like, pick up one of his books or something, right?
Yeah.
But this dude would just calmly, 80, whatever, 90 years old, just tell you, yeah, it went like this. We did this. And you're just like, oh my gosh, your chain of command had your back, dude. Like, the people had your back. You got to do whatever you needed to win. It's not like that anymore.
Well, it's not like that in our war. But if we fucked around and slipped into an Axis and Allies war, where it was superpowers and near peers, like that,
yeah. And I don't know
what it would be.
I don't want to get too macro with the discussion, but like, should we be fighting some of the wars that we're fighting for the reasons we're fighting if it isn't for those type of reasons, these World War level ones? And
why are we fighting?
Why are we getting mixed with these little tiny engagements?
Farmers in the Middle East.
People are losing their lives.
Yeah.
People are dying. People are being affected forever. And like, I mentioned one name, Gary Van Leuven. Like, his family was affected. Mom, dad, brothers, sisters, friends, and like, that's just one name, Think of all the people we lost in Afghanistan
the ripples
and Iraq. Yeah. and money for the country, like just human resource, human capital, and then like no kidding, money. This country has just wasted so much on stupid wars.
Yeah.
And they are. I don't care what anybody has to say. Like, the entire population knows about it. I used to be hating anti-war people, but like there's a sentiment in me now. It's just like, okay, I don't want to fight that war. We shouldn't have lost these people. We shouldn't. So yeah, I'm retiring.
Yeah, it's like war, but for what? You got to make me believe that we need to go to war. Not that we want to go to war. I heard somebody one time, as a mentor of mine, and he said, it should be so serious to go to war that the President of the United States, because he should understand the gravity of what he's about to do before he ever declares war, he should have to take a revolver and blow the brains out of an American citizen. And if we don't need to go to war that bad and you won't want to do that, then you don't need to go to war.
I like it. I mean, yeah.
Because that's exactly what you're about to do.
That's exactly what you're doing.
And so if it's not important enough for us to go and you can't do that, because that's what you're going to do anyway. If you can't do that, then you better not go to the Congress and ask them for a declaration of war.
And you know what sucks too is we don't have a leg to stand on as service members. We don't have a voice. Scheller did what he did, and like he's gone. Kicked him out, and a lot of people agreed with him. But the only voice we have at this point is just get out, and it's happening in droves.
Mm-hmm.
Our peer group, the younger guys, and it's very unfortunate because if you don't give people hope, something to believe in for what's right, why should they give their lives?
Well, they'll stop.
And they'll stop.
Well, you see that in all the other branches, not the Marine Corps. Hoorah! We came in with an A++ strong, but these other branches didn't hit the recruitments. Came in as a weak.
I was told the Marine Corps didn't this year.
I was told they did.
I'm
gonna have to look into it.
There's a lot of.
I was told we did, but I'll look. I'll double check.
That'd be good, but
I know that we were rated as strong, and some of the other branches weren't in this last little evaluation. So,
which is to be expected, the Marine Corps.
Second to none, baby. What's next for you?
Good question.
I mean, I know retirement's coming up.
Yeah.
But what's your plans? I know we talked offline a bit about Skill Bridge, which I'm a huge fan of. The more I hear about it, what's your take?
It is great. It's a good program. It's when you're pulling a trigger and stuff like that, like you don't have time to go get a skill, and you didn't do college or whatever the case. So Skill Bridge is great. It gave me 2.5 months to go out and be an electrician. So I'm going to be an electrician. It gets my hands busy. It gets me moving. It gets me out of an office, keeps me working, keeps my brain working. And I like the work. It's fun. So, and then, there's a lot of opportunity. One thing I've learned being in the military, I don't want to work for the man, the rest of my life. So as an electrician, any trade, you can get licensed, you can start your own business, and you can take that to any limit you want or keep it as minimum as you want. And
sure.
I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I do know that, like I said before, God has blessed me so much, and I've got an amazing family, awesome wife. And like one thing, when you're working 8 hours a day, or you're going to 29 Palms for 60 days, or you're deploying for 6 months, 7 months, it makes you yearn for the opportunity to spend time with your spouse or kids, and so now I have that time, and I'm in my backyard playing basketball with my daughter, teaching my son how to drive, taking my wife on dates or trips, going to concerts, being able to live your life, because I feel like I was on pause for 20 years or something like that, in some aspects, and now I get to start a whole new chapter. And so I'm grateful that I get that opportunity. And March 31st is the ceremony. I think I'm out April 30th, done. And
where are you doing it at?
I'll send you the invite.
Lejeune area? Or local area?
Yeah, Lejeune area. So, Building 2,
yeah.
Logistics, old MLG building, behind it, Building 2, on March 31st at 1 o'clock, 1300. But
1 p.m.
Yeah,
you can start saying it now.
So, what was I going to say? Oh, I wasn't going to have a ceremony. It just doesn't seem like kind of arbitrary to have a ceremony for like you getting out of.
Yeah, they didn't let you do
careers,
that, do they?
They were going to. I wasn't going to have one. I really was not going to have one.
I think you'd regret it. I know it seems so super stupid, but
it does.
But that's the closure. That's the end of a chapter.
And I still wasn't going to. Everybody said the same thing, you know. And I was like, okay, everybody's saying that. Maybe there's some, but I still couldn't wrap my head around. They're like, oh, it's for your family. I'm like, well, what does my family need a retirement ceremony for? That's dumb. I'm not doing it. And my brain's always active. I'm thinking of stuff, and I'm thinking, you know what? This is my one opportunity to give credit where credit is due, starting from God to my parents, my wife, everyone who's helped me along the way, you know, and which, you know, we live our lives day by day, and sometimes you just don't have time to say thank you, or people don't realize that. So this is, and when I thought about it in that context, I was like, I have to have one.
Oh yeah.
So about a month ago, I made that decision, and you know, like, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to write a speech. I'm definitely going to stumble over my words and say stupid things, but like, I got to get that out to everybody there, you know, because I really am grateful. I probably come off as prideful and, you know, arrogant sometimes with people, but like, I'm so thankful for, you know, from beginning to end, everybody who helped me along the way, everybody who made me better, even when I didn't think they were making me better. You know what I mean? That we're so lucky in the Marine Corps to have that, because we have those stories about, you know, the squad leader or that platoon sergeant or whoever. Regular jobs aren't always like that. You know, it's more in detail, and with the Marine Corps, it's like you live with these people, you go to combat, you know, it's intimate in that, in that leadership and that mentorship, and when you're talking about people's lives at stake, you know, it's impactful, you know. So it just meant a lot to me. I wish I could invite more people, you know, but I just don't want to turn it into a circus.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I'm not inviting random people from the command or anything like that. Like, if you're there, it's because you meant something to me.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm not just gonna send out these mass invites or anything like that.
Yeah, I get it. Well, man, we've been going at it for about 93 minutes now.
Wow.
Doesn't seem like it when we're in conversation, but
no, this was fun. Thank you for the invite.
No, man, I appreciate you coming on.
And also, thank you for what you do. Like, I think it's really cool and meaningful that you do this, and you know, getting these voices out and perspectives, because, you know, it changes a mindset, or it makes things better. Even for me to come here, like, I was really nervous about it at first. Like, what am I going to talk about? Nobody cares about me. Why should I talk about me? And just getting it out and being able to get my voice out and just be honest and humble, you know, it's been a lot. So I appreciate it.
No, that's great, dude. And get your story out, and maybe we don't have senior Marines that are treating new guys like complete dog shit when they're going to be the one winning the day and saving everybody's life in the backside. So, yeah, it's important, man. It's important that we put down this type of dialogue for the guys that are coming to fill our shoes and the guys that are coming to fill their shoes, because this will be out there now until the internet's done. People can learn from this and learn from your exploits.
Indeed.
So I appreciate it, man. I think we should go shoot.
Yeah, brother. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, guys. Till next time.
Well, that concludes this episode. Thanks for listening to Choices Not Chances podcast. Please share, like, and subscribe wherever you listen or watch our podcast. You can also follow us on social media at Choices Not Chances podcast. Thanks, and have a great day.
Louisiana Gun Shop, your firearm headquarters, specializing in concealed carry guns, ammo, and training. You can get your Louisiana permit with us. Also a large selection of AR-15s, or if you are that build-it-yourself type of guy or gal, we have all the parts to build and customize your own AR-15. Glock, SIG, Taurus, Ruger. We have all the brands, both in the store or at LouisianaGunshop.com.
Not too far. You're marking a building. Hit him. Yeah, that's good. That's a good shot. That's money. Yeah.